the Guernsey Literary and Potato Peel Pie Society and its effect on the island of Guernsey itself. Today I'm going to be discussing the Guernsey Literary and Potato Peel Pie Society book and film adaptation and the effect that it had on the island of Guernsey itself. The Guernsey Literary and Potato Peel Pie Society was written by Mary Ann Shaffer and completed by her niece Annie Barrows after Shaffer became too ill to complete her first and only novel. The story follows 9 months of the life of Juliet Ashton, an author struggling to come up with a new topic for a book after the end of the Second World War. Through letters to and from her and her various friends, the reader learns about the people she begins writing to on the island of Guernsey, and reads on as her correspondence with the residents of the island turns into a friendship. In the second part of the book, again shown through letters, the reader learns of Juliet making the decision to travel to Guernsey to find out more about the occupation in order to write a book about it. They see the adventures she has on the island with her new friends and the fascinating stories she uncovers of the residents, in particular Elizabeth McKenna. Juliet learns that Elizabeth was sent to a concentration camp during the occupation of the island for helping an injured and starving 17-year-old Polish tot worker, a slave worker forced into labour until death. She does not live to see the end of the war, but through stories told to Juliet by the people who loved her, Juliet writes a book on the occupation, with Elizabeth as the central piece holding the book together, just as she held the members of the Guernsey Literary and Potato Peel Pie Society together. The epistolary form used throughout the book allows the reader to not only hear from the perspective of Juliet, but allows them to see the point of view from multiple different characters, the story unfolding through the letters they send to one another. Shaffer and Barrows cleverly create distinct voices for each of the character that sends a letter, and through these voices each person's story is carefully told and given weight. Much like the real-life occupation of the island, every person's experience was different, from Eben watching his grandson boarding a ship to be taken away for his own safety for 5 years, to Dorsey losing control of his farm being told what he had to grow. Everyone has a different story to tell, and the book does a good job in demonstrating this. The epistolary form also allows for a much richer description in the text through the use of language. Take, for example, the letter written from Juliet to her friend Sydney on the 22nd of May 1946, on page 139 of the text, describing her first impression upon seeing the island of Guernsey for the first time. The voyage from Weymouth was ghastly, with the mailboat groaning and creaking and threatening to break to pieces in the waves. I almost wished it would, to put me out of my misery, except that I wanted to see Guernsey before I died. And as soon as we came in sight of the island, I gave up the notion altogether, because the sun broke beneath the clouds and set the cliffs shimmering into silver. As the mailboat lurched into the harbour, I saw St. Peter Port, rising up from the sea, with a church at the top like a cake decoration, and I realised that my heart was galloping. However much I tried to persuade myself it was the thrill of the scenery, I knew better. All those people I've come to know and even love a little, waiting to see me. And I, without any paper to hide behind. Sydney, in these past 2 or 3 years, I've become better at writing than living. And think what you do to my writing. On the page, I am perfectly charming, but that's just a trick I've learnt. It has nothing to do with me. At least, that's what I was thinking as the boat approached the pier, and I had a cowardly impulse to throw my red cape overboard and pretend I was someone else. The description of the beautiful harbour that serves as the entrance to the island is only heightened by the feelings that Juliet expresses she is feeling. Her nerves and excitement can be felt by the reader as they picture the scene unfolding in their mind. The Guernsey Literary and Potato Peel Pie Society was adapted into a film in 2018, starring Lily James and directed by Mark Newell. It follows much the same plot as the book, following Juliet as she travels to Guernsey to find out more about the occupation and to meet the friends she has made through writing letters. The film is limited as it only follows Juliet's point of view. The audience does not get to hear from other characters or get an idea for their inner thoughts and personal feelings. And due to budgetary requirements, characters who may have been more minor in the book, such as Sophie Strachan and John Booker, but who were by no means less important to the story as a whole, were cut from the film completely. However, the film does have something the book does not. Through the medium of film, the audience is able to see the island appear before their eyes and watch the characters explore it, as opposed to having to use the words on a page to imagine it. Whilst the book does an amazing job at creating a picture of the island in the reader's mind, it cannot beat actually seeing it on screen before them. Although it must be noted at this point that the film was not actually filmed on Guernsey, something that was a hot topic of contention at the time. So what did the Guernsey Literary and Potato Pie Society do for the island of Guernsey? Well, neither medium actually shows what being on the island is or was like, today or during the occupation. Surrounded by beautiful beaches with golden sand and all but one of the parishes being surrounded by countryside, the people who live here are extremely lucky. St Peter Port, which is where the main town is and is mentioned in the book and the film as being the port that Juliet enters through and sees the island for the first time, is the only part of the island that is really built up. Drive for 5 minutes and you're back in either the countryside or by the coast. Neither book nor film can get this across in the same way that filming the island itself can, hence why I have chosen to film my personal favourite parts of the island. Everybody's view of the island will be different, which demonstrates the amazing array of things on offer, but this is my personal viewpoint and the way in which I see Guernsey. It was not the same during the occupation. Whilst the island was still beautiful, from the time Nazi soldiers entered Guernsey on the 30th of June 1940 until they left on the 9th of May 1945, they built fortifications at every point on the island so they could keep watch for an enemy attack from England or France. They put in strict restrictions such as curfews and rules about what farmers could grow on their farms in order to keep control of islanders, and they allowed the island to become a place of suffering and pain and starvation. Through the use of digital media, recreations can be made and lost footage is able to be found and developed so that people are able to see for themselves what it was like during the war. And through footage that residents like myself can take, simply with a phone, and upload to the internet, people who have never been to the island before are able to see what it is like today. The internet and the development of technology has meant that the island described in the book and shown in the film, that was barely known to anybody who didn't live here, is now able to be shown to the world, encouraging people to come and visit and see it for themselves firsthand. Whilst neither the book nor the film truly capture the essence of living on Guernsey in the same way a residence footage can, they were essential for bringing attention to the island and its story to the rest of the world. To date, the book has sold over 7.5 million copies worldwide, and the film was a critical success, gaining a whopping 80% on Rotten Tomatoes. The success of both these worldwide has meant that a small island in the English Channel and the story of what it went through during the Second World War is now known, not just to the 65,000 residents of the island, but to the whole world. And that is what the Guernsey Literary and Potato Pie Society has done for the actual island of Guernsey.